Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons and considering Dungeons and Dragons as a proximity key. I'm Scott Garibay. Hello, and I lead a life of adventure. Why? Because on February 1974, Gary Gygax said to everyone, every dungeon master on the planet and every dragon master on the planet from that day and every day forward, that that they would lead a life of adventure at the table and beyond the table. Uh, Dragon Magazine literally said, "Mastering the dungeon and beyond." Right. And so I am not a rich man wealth-wise, but I am a rich man relationship-wise. And a circumstance came up in my life where I got access to a 2022, or 2 weeks to have access to drive as my daily driver, a 2022 custom rimmed black Ford Mustang. Very, very fortunate, right? I love muscle cars. I know all about them. I literally see, some of the, I probably see 6,000 to 7,000 of the best muscle cars in America every single year. I have a distinct interest in American muscle cars, right? But I've never owned. Well, actually, I did own one for a brief amount of time. Let's keep this. Let's keep this this video focused, right? But I rarely get to drive them. All right. So when I got this 2022 custom rimmed black Ford Mustang, my wife drove it first, and so then it was my turn to drive it. And so she explained to me, I was like, okay, can I have the key? And she's like, okay, listen. She hands me the key, and it's just a fob, right? And we have older cars, right? And so I'm like, where's the key? And she said, this is a proximity key. So when you go and you get in the car, you don't have to unlock it. As soon as you get within proximity of the car, it will unlock the car. And then when you get in, you're authorized, right? Your authentication and your authorization are complete. And you can just hit the button and the engine will start, right? I was like, whoa, a proximity key. So I know, for you guys, a lot of people have new cars, like it's no big deal. But it was a big deal for me, right? And it made me think about Dungeons and Dragons, because just about everything on this planet makes me think about Dungeons and Dragons, right? I don't think there might be 5 minutes of a day where I don't think about Dungeons and Dragons. I think about Dungeons and Dragons. I think about Dungeons and Dragons more than professionals who are paid to think about Dungeons and Dragons. It is rarely far from my heart or mind, right? And what it made me think about is that Dungeons and Dragons is a proximity key for two things for every dungeon master and every dragon master. And what are those two things? Empathy and death. Okay? So the muggles of the world, they go through a life without Dungeons and Dragons. And truly, every day, I have a growing sorrow over people who have a Dungeons and Dragons-less life. I actually think if you do not play Dungeons and Dragons, if you do not do Dungeons and Dragons, if you do not read Dungeons and Dragons, if you do not own Dungeons and Dragons, you are a marginalized group that you do not recognize you are a member of. You live such a desiccated, pathetic, horrible life that has been thrust upon you by others' choices and your response to others' choices, right? So it is a different marginalized group in that it's very, and I don't want to say pathetic, it's desiccated, it's weak sauce, it's just a shadow of a real life. I am not convinced that anyone after February 7th, 1974, the birth of Gary Gygax birthing Dungeons and Dragons, after that day, if you live without Dungeons and Dragons, you are living like Voldemort before he gets a body, right? You're just living a mere wisp of a life. Something is this shape of a life, but is not a life. Okay. All right. Let's get there. So I think Dungeons and Dragons is a proximity key for empathy and death. And I truly believe if you play Dungeons and Dragons, if you do Dungeons and Dragons, if you own Dungeons and Dragons, if you are Dungeons and Dragons, you are no longer a bog standard human. You have been elevated above that role. If you do it right, you fully transform into Manifold Sentient, into a Manifold Sentient, right? And if you and you are manumitted from single identity, okay? And you don't function like a normal human. And so one of them is you have an empathy at a level that is unheard of anywhere else in the world for any human. And the reason why is you know what it likes. You more than anyone knows what it's like to be a different gender, knows what it likes to have multiple sets of memory, sensation, emotion, right? Knows what it's like to be able to pick and choose the strengths of a player character, completely, absorb them into your own IRL identity, your on Jord identity, right? And I don't want to say your real identity. It's just your Jord identity. It's the one you have here on Earth, right? It's your earthbound identity. It doesn't mean it's any more important than your player character identity, right? And you may have player character identities that are more important to you than your meat sack earthbound Jord identity, right? But you have empathy with other genders, people who do not have the same skin color as you, people who don't have the same preferences as you, because you've played them. You have literally, you're not some OSR just playing another, person who has all the same attributes as you, right? It's profound. And then the other one is death. We pass through death. Through Dungeons and Dragons, there is a progression. There is playing a player character, and that player character does not experience death. You complete a campaign, your player character has not died, and you now have a second life. You have a second identity, right? And then, right, and this is the order it should happen in, right? Then you have this situation where you are then you get then you have this situation where you sit at the table, you make your player character, you sign the greatest secular social contract that has ever existed, which is the player character contract. A contract with yourself, a contract with that player character, a contract with every dragon master at the table, and a contract with the dungeon master, right? To bring that character to life, to respect it, to respect yourself, and to bring yourself to life, right? And then you witness another player character die, right? And you're like, whoa, I've seen this person invest 9 months of time into this player character. I've seen them laugh. I've seen them cry in this character, right? I've seen them experience profound circumstances, right? And now that player character is dead. How do I mourn with that player? How does my player character mourn over the dead player character? It is a journey through death. And then we experience death. We played a player character for 18 months, right? We've watched the ships come in, as the sun rises in Waterdeep. We have profound memories. We have profound experiences. We have profound sensations. We felt profound emotion. We've thought profound thoughts with this player character. And then they die, right? And we no longer, as human beings, experience death on Jord, on Earth, like other people do. We have experience with it, right? We have journeyed with it. We have held hands with death and walked with death in a way that regular muggles just don't. Regular people don't experience life the way we experience life. They don't experience death the way we experience death. It is a second or a third death. When we die on Jord, it's nothing more than another death. We've already passed through death. We've watched others pass through death. We've passed through death ourselves. We've stood and mourned, right, the dead ones before. It's not the same for us. Dungeons & Dragons is a proximity key for empathy and death, and it makes us different. And frankly, I'm going to say it, it makes us better. We've been improved, we've been transformed, we've secured things that others haven't. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider liking and subscribing and have a wonderful millennium.